Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai ki te hui o te komiti rātonga rangatopu me te rautaki. E tēnei rā, welcome to today's Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee meeting. The emergency procedures are being shown on the screen for anyone who's not familiar with those. I'm sure we all are. And I will ask that the karakia timatanga, the opening karakia, be shared on the screen also. Thank you. It's there on the right-hand side. I'll ask you to join in, please. Me karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ti te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te ata kura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Okay, moving on to apologies. I've received an apology for lateness from Councillor Brown, who will be joining us shortly, I hope. And everybody else is here. Are there any apologies for early departures? No. In that case, I'll just move the motion that the apology for lateness from Councillor Brown be received and accepted. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I declare that motion carried. Now, we have nobody registered for public comment today. Mayor Barry.
Sorry, and I know I didn't get a chance to mention this, but I just want to acknowledge the passing of Shane Richardson, a Wainuiomata local over in the UK under pretty tragic circumstances, which happened this morning. I know we'll get an opportunity to acknowledge him at full council as well, but I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. Now, conflict of interest declarations. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest they may have concerning to items on the agenda. Are there any conflicts? No. In that case, we'll move on to our first paper. Item 5, recommendation to Te Kaunihira o Te Awa Kairangi, Hutt City Council on the 29th of May 2025, the rates arrears policy, write-off policy, page 8 of the agenda, and I'll invite Alicia Andrews, Manager of Finance Transactions, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Alicia.
Kia ora. Kia ora, everybody. This report contains a proposed policy for rates arrears write-offs, where it provides a framework for considering whether or not rates arrears have become unrecoverable, and gives us a mechanism to write those off. It also provides a bit of an update around what the rates arrears are at the moment, and some information around direct debit uptake and rates emails as well. This policy would sit alongside the other rating policies to support our debt management approach. So with our remission policies and our rates postponement policies. So at the moment, we've got 3 properties that have a rates postponement, and we've got another 3 applications pending. So we're seeing more ratepayers seeking out those forms of assistance as we're seeing our rates arrears creeping up. But we are working with our ratepayers to support them with our payment arrangements and rates rebates, which we've processed over 2,000 rates rebate applications this year worth about $1.6 million. So the team's working hard to work alongside our ratepayers to support them, and this would be something to sit alongside those policies. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Alicia. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Regarding the rates postponement policy and now this suggested policy, what would the process be for officers? Like, how would you step through it?
For the postponements, or how would this sit alongside
is it
that?
stepped up? Yeah, what are the checkpoints that they go through? So if it was this policy is enacted, do you first go through rates postponement as an option for the people? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We would look at the other policies that we already have in place, like postponement, payment arrangements. That the write-off policy would only be used in situations where we couldn't recover. We considered that the debt had become unrecoverable. So where there's a postponement in place, we have a charging a charge on the title, and when that property changes hands, we would recover our rates debt from the proceeds of that sale. Then council sits as like probably quite first in line. So rates postponement isn't an unrecoverable situation. Yeah.
So just for clarity, Alicia, this policy really is the policy of last resort in terms of rates that haven't been paid. Yeah, thank you. Are there any further questions? No. In that case, I'll move the motion on page 8 that the committee recommends Council 1 adopts the proposed rates arrears write-off policy as detailed in Appendix 1 attached to the report. 2, notes that the policy will support effective debt management and financial reporting practices. And 3, notes that the policy will enable officers to write off rates debt where all reasonable steps to recover it have been taken and where it is no longer financially or legally viable to pursue recovery. Mawai Utoko, do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Stellinger. Is there any debate? No, just a quick comment of thanks from me, Alicia, for the work on this policy. It's a very clear policy for us and everybody else to understand, and yeah, hopefully is seldom needed, but it's there if we need to reach it. So thank you very much. I will now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. He whakapua ki au kua mana te mōtini. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5B, the draft events strategy. It's on page 17 of the agenda. I invite Hayley Ellison, our events lead, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Hayley.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Hayley Ellison toku ingoa. For those who haven't met me, I'm the events lead here at Council and the officer responsible for this paper. The paper seeks approval to consult on the draft events strategy, which sets a clear partnership-focused direction for how we support and enable events in Te Awa Kairangi ki Tai Lower Hutt. There have been no updates or amendments to the paper that's included in your agenda. If approved, the next steps will involve public consultation before finalising the strategy and reporting back to this committee on the 1st of July. I'm happy to speak to the strategy or respond to any questions. Kia ora.
Thank you, Hayley. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? No? I've got one there, Hayley. There was a really clear desire for events to have economic impact. And I just wondered where we're starting from. Do we have a baseline measure of events that have been done previously or recently by our council in our city, or are we taking economic measures that will allow us to see the impact when it happens?
Kia ora. Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. We don't have a great deal of baseline data just now, and economic impact is it is quite difficult to measure. However, as part of the work we're doing, we are setting up KPIs, key performance indicators, including economic, and using formula that are recognised to try and help understand the direct impacts of events. So in answer to your question, we don't have a great deal of baseline data, but we're certainly intending through implementation of our strategy to develop that and have the ability to measure the economic success.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, just a quick question on the KPIs. It mentions they'll come next. Will that just come into our usual annual plan KPI process?
Kia ora, that's a very good question. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm relatively new here and I don't know the process for how they will be approved. Having said that, they are being developed now. Our intention is to have them in place for the new financial year to ensure that we can start measuring our event success. They're in process. They'll be going to CLT and I'll take some advice about what happens next.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can advise on that. There will be a KPI review process as part of the corporate planning cycle. It would be elected members' prerogative whether to include events KPIs within that suite of measures. There would likely be some that could be elevated to that corporate planning KPI set. However, many of the KPIs are likely to be of such operational nature that it would separately be reported through this committee, for example.
Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Just a follow-up. Thank you, Hayley. Welcome. Is it Hayley? Yeah, it is Hayley. Follow-up to your question, Mr. Chair, about setting the KPIs for economic indicators. Will that be the event holder's prerogative or the they'd have to take charge of that. And I just, if it is a yes for that one, is that something that another thing they would have to do in their whole process, another burden perhaps for some of these smaller, community-based groups?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The economic impact is more focused on the major events. So we would be asking event organisers to collect data, but we're actually just going through a process now of finding a way to do that relatively easily. And there are some survey tools we can use that we can collect data relatively easily and quickly that we then put into our formula. One of the key things for direct economic impact is around number of nights that people stay. And so if we can have the information around how many people attend or participate in an event and how many days it's going on for, we can make some judgments around economic impact. So yes, there is a little bit more information we need from event organisers, but it's relatively easy and quick to collect that data.
And in regard to events, will you be opening up for ideas to have events? You've got a list of them in there and, the targets. Just opening up to community groups or people to, pool their ideas.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're starting to develop an annual calendar so that we can see what events we've got on, what we've got coming. We're categorising that so that we can see the sort of genre of events we've got, because whilst we will be expecting communities to come to us with their ideas, I think if we can see where we might have gaps, timing gaps, or potentially types of events that we aren't seeing a lot of, then there's an opportunity for us to start targeting those as well.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? No, in that case, I will move the motion that committee recommends Council 1 notes and receives the information, 2 notes the event strategy engagement report attached as Appendix 1 to the report, 3 notes the Hutt City Council environmental scan attached as Appendix 2 to the report, and 4 approves the draft event strategy for public consultation attached as Appendix 3 to the report. Mawai e tautoko, do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Parkin. Is there any debate? Councillor Dyer.
I just really want to acknowledge your leadership with this, Hayley. This is amazing work in the event space. The process for engagement, the number of engagements we've had back really speaks to how important events are to our city. I don't know if that's because we had lots of other consultation going on at the same time that drove people to our website, and while they were there, they thought they'd dabble in the event space or not. But yeah, the environmental scan, super interesting reading about that, and I'm really excited to see this policy transition from here. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? No, just a quick one for me to reiterate to the very thorough amount of work that's gone into creating a strong scaffolding, I think, for this strategy. The environmental scan was really interesting reading, a lot of listening and learning done through the engagement. So thank you for that, Mahi. Okay, I will now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Ka whakapuaki au, kua mana te mōtini, I declare the motion carried. Our next paper, number 6, is the quarterly performance report for the 1st of January to 31st of March 2025. It's on page 93 of the agenda, and I'll invite Gemma Bols, Head of Enterprise Portfolio Management Office, to speak to the memorandum. Kia ora, Gemma.
Kia ora, thank you. So yes, this is the Q3 performance report, which covers 1st of January to the 31st of March 2025. You'll find all the usual content that you're all very familiar with by now, including the highlights and challenges for Q3 from page 4. You'll also find our detailed updates on our key strategic focus areas from page 10, as well as a snapshot of our key projects and programs as well. For the non-financials, there are 77 indicators, and we report on 53 of these each quarter. At the time of reporting, we had received data for 52 of the targets. So we're missing, the outstanding one is emissions from council-owned facilities. We are expecting that data this week, and we will update the report before publishing on the website. So for Q3, as it stands with that one missing indicator, we achieved 58% of our targets. This is the same as Q2 this year, but it's down from Q3 last year, which was 61%. As always, you will find the financial summary at the back of the report from page 37, and I will leave it there for any questions, and there are officers here as well.
Thank you, Gemma. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora, thank you for the report. Page 126 of our agenda, and it's community partnering and support, CP4. There's made note of the fact that our monthly targets don't account for summer holidays and matariki affecting the hours, etc., in terms of numbers of people getting through our neighbourhood hubs. Just wondering, in terms of reviewing, when we come to next review these targets, is it something that's feasible to actually put in a set of targets or series of targets that accurately reflect our known annual variation?
I could definitely look into that for you. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, just on the highlights page, on page 100, there's a little bit of information there about our mobile licence plate recognition system, and it highlights just how effective that technology can be in helping to get parking turnover and ensure people are paying for their parking, I guess. But there has been a little bit of publicity, and I know there's one elected member's matter on one particular ticket that someone had an issue with, but I have read some social media that there have been problem with some tickets in terms of dates and when issued and how long it's taken to get them there and all this kind of stuff that I presume is to do with this LPR system. Is it working well now? Is there anything we can be updated on?
I'm looking at my colleagues at the table. I am aware that there was a particular parking issue that didn't relate to this technology. It was a particular issue that an individual expressed some concern about, and we dealt with that complaint. This isn't coming up on my radar, but I'm looking at Alison to see if there's anything else.
Yes, there has been, when the system was first rolled out, there was a period where the date was wrong. There was a technology problem where there was an AM/PM issue, which meant that people were getting ticketed and it said that they were parking at a place at 10 p.m. when they knew that when they were actually there at 10 a.m. It was just a technology issue, and so it was actually they were photographed, their car was photographed, and this happened a number of times, but we actually went back to everybody, explained it, and also there was another issue with there was a bit of a delay between when the photographs were taken and when the tickets were issued, and we have extra admin staff they're actually people who go in and actually vet the photographs to make sure that they are valid. And so it's a case of, this is a very good example of AI, but obviously with AI to be effective and accurate, you have to have a human being in there. So we're getting another admin person in place, so we will speed up the system, because there was quite a lag between people being photographed and the tickets being sent out. However, if you have a look at the photos really have all the information you need to show that people were actually there at the time. And it's a case of, I think we did some publicity when it was first rolled out, and there was a bit of a lag between people actually starting to get these tickets, and so there was a bit of a response, a reaction from that. But it is a case of, it has been fixed and it's working well now, but we need to speed up that time between when the incident happened and when we ticket people.
Thank you, Alison. And I assume too the technology we're using is used broadly elsewhere. It's robust technology we're using. It's just a matter of bedding in those processes.
Yes, very much so. Yep.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Stallinger.
Just a very minor point, if I could ask the staff to have a look at this for next quarter. Thanks again for the report, very comprehensive as it has been of late, so thank you. It's on our page 120, which is 26 of the report. There's a target relating to tonnes of waste to landfill per person, which we want to be below. We're above the target, but the explanation is essentially that there's more people. It kind of doesn't make sense because it's a circular situation, because if the target is per people and we have more people, that doesn't explain it. So perhaps it's just a wording of the change there, or else maybe our population number that we're using is out of date. Thank you.
Well spotted, Councillor Stallinger. I saw that one in there too. I just had one question for John, and it's probably just a reminder. On the table, the major projects update, page 111, Eastern Hutt Road Resilience Project, it talks about how council officers are working with NZTA to progress a funding decision, meeting mid-April, and design has been paused. Can you just remind us the nature of that funding decision we're seeking and where things are at?
Thank you, Chair. So decision, most recent information we've just got over the last couple of days is end of May. So that is for the NZTA subsidy for the next stage of the Eastern Hutt Road works. So once we've got confirmation of that, which will be early June, we'll be able to progress. And schedule will then go out for procurement for construction following that, but we need to know what the rate of funding is once it's confirmed, and then prioritise the sites and bring them back. We'll bring them back via council for scheduling.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, councillors? No? In that case, I move the motion that the committee receives and notes the quarterly performance report for the period from 1 January to 31 March 2025, attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum. Mawai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Is there any debate? No. In that case, I put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapua au kua mana te mōtini. I declare the motion carried. Moving right along to item 7, the New Zealand Local Government Funding Agency Draft Statement of Intent 2025 to 28 and Half-Year Performance Report. This is on page 146 of your agendas, and I invite Glenn Uso-Ali'i Phillips, the Treasury Officer, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Glenn.
Lava, thank you, Andy. Pleasure to present this paper covering the Draft Statement of Intent for the period 2025 to 2028. And also LGFA's half-year performance results to 31 December. This is a standard annual paper that we present. I'll take the paper as being read. Just like to touch on a few key highlights without going through the whole thing. Firstly, the draft statement of intent, which includes financial forecasts, is assuming that in financial years 27 and 28 that LGFA will commence lending to water CCOs under the Local Water Done Well program. There is, however, some high level of uncertainty just regarding the amount and the timing of any lending to those entities until such time as they're set up. Second point, profitability from contained within the draft SOI is forecasting some very healthy net profits over the next 3 years, but again, LGFA is a wee bit cautious about placing too much emphasis on the further dated forecast, just given that over the next 3 years, 7.9 billion of LGFA bonds and 11.9 billion of council and CCO loans mature. They've also forecasted loans outstanding to increase steadily over that 3-year period to top out at around 28.5 billion, obviously as the sector borrows more to fund their infrastructure works. The report, the half-year report and the SOI were received by council officers within the statutory deadlines. Importantly, Standard & Poor's reaffirmed the credit rating on LGFA as AAA, same as New Zealand Government, which helps the sector borrow funds at very reasonable costs. Their interest income for the 6-month period was a healthy increase, along with their net operating profit, which is good to see from a shareholder's perspective. And those numbers were also slightly ahead of the previous year's statement of intent. LGFA now has membership of 77 out of the 78 councils in New Zealand, with the exception of the Chatham Islands, and has also begun lending to 7 council-controlled organisations. Over the period of the 6 months, we increased our borrowing through LGFA by 81 million. Whilst that was a fairly high number, this was to enable repayment of debt maturing, pre-funding upcoming debt, and funding our capital investment program. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? Just noting too, we are invited to suggest changes to the draft statement of intent. Our officers have recommended none, and that's part of the motion, unless anyone has any suggestions I'd like to put through to LGFA. No, if there's no questions, then I move the motion that the committee, 1, notes the Local Government Funding Agency LGFA Board has submitted a draft statement of intent for the 3 years 2025 to 28 as attached as Appendix 2 to the report in accordance with the Local Government Act 2022. 2, notes that officers do not have any suggested changes to the draft statement of intent. 3, agrees that there are no suggested changes to the draft statement of intent. And 4, notes and receives the LGFA half-year report to 30 December 2024, attached as Appendix 4 to the report. Mawai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is there any debate? No. In that case, I put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapua ki au, kua mana te motini. I declare the motion carried. Next on our agenda, item 8 is the draft engagement principles and update on the engagement lift project. This is page 199 of the agenda, and I'll invite Rochelle Carrick, engagement lead, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Rochelle.
Ngā mihi, Mr. Chair, kia ora koutou. This paper provides an update on our engagement uplift work and seeks your approval on the draft engagement principles, which are set out in paragraph 16. This work responds to calls from elected members and community to improve how we engage, with the ultimate aim of lifting trust, improving representation and civic participation, or supporting better decision making. The principles were drafted based on the outputs from our February workshop with councillors and CLT and insights from community feedback. They reflect our community's wants, needs and values and form the basis of our commitment to better engagement. We heard from around 300 community members with strong support for the draft principles. This reflects both the quality of the insights and engagement that inform the principles, but also the innovative approach, particularly through the use of qualifier. There's more information outlined in the paper, but using qualifier alongside a recruited community reference group meant we were able to test and refine the principles almost in real time, ensuring they were being shaped meaningfully through community voice as we developed them. This was, of course, alongside more traditional methods such as engagement through our online Have Your Say platform, democracy boards in our community hubs, and meetings with different community groups. We've listened carefully and incorporated feedback at each stage. We've refined the principles further following public engagement, simplifying the language, clarifying our commitments, and adjusting the order. We've been transparent through the process and will continue to do that by closing the loop on this stage with all participants and the wider community. We have had a lot of interest around how the principles will be achieved. That level of detail will come in the next phase through the engagement framework and the action plan, which will reset that expectation when we close the loop. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rochelle. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? Councillor Parkin.
Sorry, apologies. This one's probably actually an admin thing that I should have picked up earlier, and that is, should we have the title as uplift rather than lift, given that we refer to the engagement uplift project in its full title later?
Through you, Chair. Noted.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Dyer?
Yeah, just a quick one on the funding. Obviously, it talks here about the disestablishment of the community boards, kind of now not leaving that hole where we were expecting. Is it anticipated we're going to need some additional funding to do some of the principles through this, or will that come back to us later for another decision?
Through you, Chair. At the moment, it's not anticipated. We're focused on implementing consistent processes and tools to support good engagement. If there was to be a need, it would come back through the right channels.
Any further questions? Councillor Stellinger.
Just checking, do you want to take feedback during the comment or now?
I'm happy to take feedback now, Councillor Stellinger.
Okay, I just had some general thoughts on the statements there. Maybe a bit too late for change, I'm not sure, but anyway, I'll just pass on my thoughts that I've had since our earlier engagement on the process. The first one was just on the values. To me, Karawhiua, agent of change, I kind of struggle to understand what that is as a value. It's just someone looking at this afresh. So that was just a comment there. I had a general feeling that there's kind of too many statements with the vision statements and the goals. And perhaps for readers, it's going to be a lot to get their mind around. And if we could somehow condense and consolidate some of those into a smaller number, I feel it would be helpful. And the final one is just a thought, having given it a second look on the goals. I'm not sure that a community would view smart infrastructure as perhaps the best descriptor of where we want to get to, given the issues and challenges we have at the moment, and whether something other than smart might better encompass where we're striving to get to. It seems like a good goal in itself to have infrastructure that is smart, but...
Sorry, I'll just stop you there, Councillor Stellinger. I realised that you might be a paper ahead of the rest of us on this one.
Really?
I mean, flicking through trying to find these values.
I got a long way through.
You did, sorry. It was when I finally found what you were talking about. Oh, okay, you're on the wrong page. I'm sure Rochelle's taken your feedback on board, though. That's okay. We're just live streaming to the world here. Are there any further questions about the engagement principles?
Now that blows my potential mayoral campaign. I'll have to pull the plug on that.
Any other questions on this one, folks? No? In that case, I will move the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Edwards.
Just one of puzzlement when we've got in a principle that says engage genuinely with no hidden agendas, and more than 10% disagree, 7.7% strongly disagree. I was just trying to work out in my own mind what their problem is with that principle. I don't suppose in comments there were any insights as to why, or they seem to be in favour of us having hidden agendas as we...
Through you, Chair. So that one has changed. We've changed the wording. The comments were around the hidden agendas wording and thinking we could probably change that so it doesn't come across that we've had hidden agendas in the past, which is definitely not what we were referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think there was a lot of feedback you could see from the engagement with our community boards and others, and it was really about the way things were worded rather than the principles behind them. Yeah. Any further questions, folks? No. In that case, I will move the motion that the committee, 1, receives and notes the report and progress made on the Engagement Uplift project. 2, notes the importance of this work in building trust and achieving effective engagement, increased representation and civic participation. 3, notes feedback received from the community and elected members has been reflected in the draft engagement principles. 4, approves the draft engagement principles set out in paragraph 16 of the report for inclusion in the engagement framework under development. And 5, notes further direction to officers to progress the development of the engagement framework and action plan, which will be underpinned by the engagement principles and Te Ao Māori. Mā wai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Is there any debate? Councillor Brown.
Rochelle and team, I just want to thank you for the work that you've done. This is the area that is every person, every resident has a different expectation about what consultation means. And if for some, the expectation is high on individual households, this is an area that we have to balance with how much investment we have as well when we're constantly under the gun about rates. So this is a really hard one. The workshop in February, I think it's been reflected really well, but even at community board level, we'll try our hardest to bring people in, but the essence of a town square discussion is no longer around that. Town square discussion seems to be on social media and, you know, the same 50 people leading it. So it's a really hard, I just want to acknowledge this is a hard space, and however you do it, there's always going to be people that are not supportive of how we're doing it. But I think we've got the balance right in the paper. So yeah, I think it's good work.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Yes, I totally support your comments as well. But in particular, the work you did with the community boards, you went back more than once to hear their feedback, and it was, hopefully it was constructive. I thought it was as well, and it came across that way to the officers that heard it, and it is reflected here. So the biggest thing is let's see how it rolls out and how it works, and that's going to be, you know, everyone will be watching that space with interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from councillors? No, I'll just close out with one, acknowledging really good to see in the way you've gone about this, good engagement put into practice, but also it is really important, Mahi, for our whole community. This is really a win-win. If we get this stuff right, it works for our community, but it works for us, of course, as well. So I will now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapua ki au, kua mana te mōtini. I declare the motion carried. All right, moving on to item 9, update on the development of Tātou Tāone 2055, Our City 2055, the city strategy. This is on page 213 of the agenda. I'll invite Amy Preble, Principal Advisor, City Strategy, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Amy.
Kia ora koutou. And I'm so impressed that you were excited to jump into this item early. So this is a brief update on Tātou Tāone, Our City 2055, the city strategy. You'll recall that there was a city summit held last year in September that brought together just over 200 people to start talking about the future of our city. Since that time, we've been engaging with businesses, with ethnic communities, with tangata moana, and earlier this year in January, we established a city leadership group. So these are senior representatives and organisations in Lower Hutt. There's a list of members attached to the paper. This is Iwi, Chamber of Commerce, a rangatahi representative, New Zealand Police, Health New Zealand, Whatu Ora. So the reason why we established this city leadership group is because we decided early on that the city strategy is not a council strategy. It's a city strategy. So the city leadership group is driving the development and implementation of the city strategy. This is all about getting people actively involved and genuine buy-in. It is chaired by our mayor, with our CE also on the group. Over a series of workshops, we've been developing draft values, the vision statements, the goals and initiatives. These are set out in brief in this paper, but the full set will be tested with the community this month. And that's people who've been engaged in the city strategy to date. So the list that I just gave you, including the City Summit participants. So you'll all be receiving the full list. We're then going to be coming back, reviewing the feedback, and then looking to have the strategy drafted by August, out for wider public consultation in September, and then final endorsement by the end of this year. So we are very pleased to receive any feedback, and you might want to see the full picture when it comes through next week. But also happy to take any feedback, and I was taking down notes in the previous discussion, and happy to take that back to the City Leadership Group for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question or any further suggestions? Tony, I did cut you off midstream, so I'll get you to... Amy said she's noted what you've said to date, but I think you might have had a little bit more.
No, actually, I didn't. You let me get right to the end.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I mean, yes, intentionally.
If I could, since I got the microphone, if I just add a comment that I think it's been a great process, and I really like the mix of people who are involved, rather than us sitting around a table doing it here. I think it's definitely the way to go to get a buy-in. So thank you.
Thank you. Brown, did you have a question or suggestion?
Yeah. Question is about the leadership group, and is that a changeable as we go along to achieve the city outcomes, and a timeline to that, getting the balance of public service agencies versus community, and the prioritising what the outcomes are going to be with this strategy. To be honest, I've struggled a little bit to keep up with it, but I think it's probably because it's in the forming stage of what the ultimate outcomes are going to look like and how we're going to break them down, and have we got the right leadership group, because agencies are obviously answerable to government. So to get the right push and advocacy and funding, if it's not our strategy as well, how do we... So my question is, can we change that leadership group if need be?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, absolutely. So this leadership group has been established with the current membership to get us through the development of the strategy this year. And so the term of the membership is to the end of this year. So it will be reviewed based on what concrete actions coming out of the strategy and looking at how that will be implemented going forward, which is absolutely critical in a strategy. So yes, the membership will be reviewed, and I anticipate it probably will change.
Councillor Edwards.
It was a bit unfortunate where Tony was cut off in his comments, because he was starting to say something about smart infrastructure not being a suitable heading, I think, and I was thinking to myself, it's like, to me, it's a very suitable heading where we should be heading with infrastructure, in terms of, if you consider infrastructure is not just pipes in the ground, but it's all this, libraries and all the services we're talking about, number plate recognition, cameras and so on. It's part of our infrastructure for looking after parking, and anything that we can build into it, as far as I'm concerned, that is, AI enabled and technology driven and able to be adapted as we, the fast moving world that we're in. I see right alongside that heading is climate change ready, and that's a very suitable heading as well. But yeah, I thought that was quite a good heading. But you got cut off, Tony, so I didn't hear your reasoning for.
That's a good argument from Councillor Edwards, and I'd probably change my view on it having heard that.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? I've just got a few quick ones. Firstly, just wanted to acknowledge the great minds that have already been thinking about this stuff, and thank you to officers for including that list in the appendix so we could see who'd been involved. Just in terms of the vision statements in paragraph 8, a few small pieces of feedback. One is on 8D. People enjoy good health and well-being. And I thought of my colleague, Councillor Morgan, who speaks a lot about social cohesion, and I wondered if there should be something about social cohesion or connection or something like that in there as well. On point G, Lower Hutt is a city connected to nature. Love it. I think we could probably be a little bit more aspirational, and I kind of look across the harbour to the great strides that are being made in Wellington City, and I wondered if we could add something like where Indigenous biodiversity thrives. And the final one, just a brief point on H. Our city has achieved net zero. I think those of us who are involved and understand used to shorthanding things, but it should probably say net zero greenhouse gas emissions or something like that, just to make it clear what's being discussed in that particular point. Any further questions or comments, folks? Yeah, Councillor Brown.
I think I talked about it before that the city goals should be A to K. For example, every child has access to education, because that's measurable. Like, we can measure that, but measuring flourishing neighbourhoods, what does that even mean? Like, you know, if you're going to treat that as a goal or outcome, how do we know if we've got that? But we know from, so that's the outcomes. This is just the work program behind it.
Thank you. Great question through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. What I would say is this is a very brief snapshot of what the full looks like. And when you see that, you will see those outcomes coming through very clearly. And in fact, the vision statements are all about the outcomes we want to see by 2055. Measures will be absolutely part of the city strategy, and it is going to be designed to be measurable to ensure that, yes, what are we actually trying to achieve? What are our targets? So that we can know if we're on target through our actions. But thank you for your comments.
Councillor Morgan.
Kia ora, thank you. Look, I just wanted to acknowledge the process. I can't wait to see the full, because I'm sure there's so much underneath which I can see but not see. But yeah, just thank you also for the fact that this vision has to come from the people, and the way you've gone about it as a team is really admirable, and I think that reflects our future. So I want to say ngā mihi kia koe and to the team. Thank you.
Okay. I will now move the motion that the committee, 1, notes that Tō Tātou Tāone 2055, our city 2055, the city strategy is a long-term strategy for Te Awa Kairangi ki Tailawa Hutt, which is being developed to provide a shared vision for the city's future. 2, notes that a city leadership group is leading the development of the city strategy, refer to Appendix 1 attached to the report. 3, notes the draft values, vision and goals for the city strategy, which will be tested with community members in May 2025. 4, provides feedback on the city strategy's values, vision and goals to the city leadership group for consideration as they develop the draft strategy for broader public engagement. And 5, notes that broader public engagement on the draft city strategy is planned for August 2025. Mawai e tautoko, do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is there any debate? I think there's been a lot of good feedback given, so thank you, Amy. And just to echo what's been said, I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing the full strategy. Thank you. So I'll now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapuaki au, kua mana te mōtini, I declare the motion carried. Okay, item 10, Strategy and Policy Work Programme 2025 update. It's on page 218 of the agenda. I'll invite Richard Hardy, Head of Strategy and Policy, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Richard.
Kia ora, Chair, and kia ora, councillors. So the purpose of this report is to provide our annual update on the Strategy and Policy Work Programme. You'll note that, as agreed, we're also providing a 3-year view on what's coming up, particularly in those legislative pieces like bylaws and stuff, to give the committee an opportunity to see what's on the horizon. You'll note that it's been a very busy year for us, and the highlights are included in attachment 1, and I thank you for the contribution that this committee has made to getting a lot of that through and in place. In terms of the upcoming work program, attachment 2 shows you our work program out through to December 2028. Following the elections, we will be discussing this work program with the new incoming council, and we'll update it with any new priorities that come through there. The other thing to note is that we will also factor in work that may arise from the water reforms as that large-scale project starts to gain momentum. And then finally, we're asking you to agree on the priority projects that are listed in Table 1 that will see us through to the end of the year. Many of these are already in train and will be coming to you shortly, particularly the review of the dogs bylaw and the appearances industry bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question? No. Getting off lightly. Thank you, Richard. In that case, I'll move the motion that the Committee 1 notes the programme of work that the Strategy and Policy Business Unit has delivered through to 1 May 2025 attached as Appendix 1 to the report. 2 agrees on the priority projects outlined in Table 1 of the report, and 3 notes the 3-year view of the Strategy and Policy Work Programme attached at Appendix 2 to the report, and provides any feedback to officers. We've provided no feedback. Mawai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lewis. Is there any debate? No. I now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapuaki au kua mana te mōtini. I declare the motion carried. Item number 11 is an information item, the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee Forward Programme. It's on page 224 of the agenda. He pātai tō ngā mema. Does any member have a question about that one? No. In that case, I move the motion that the committee receives and notes the draft forward programme for 2025 attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum. Mawai e tautoko. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I now put the motion that has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Ka whakapuaki au kua mana te mōtini. I declare the motion carried. Item 12 is questions. I have received no questions. Item 13, our closing formalities. Karakia whakamutunga is on the screen. Me karakia tātou. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia i te uru tapu nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua i te arataka tū. Koia rā e rongo, whakairihia aki ki runga, kia wātia, aira, kua wātia, hau pai mārere. I declare the meeting closed at 2:54 p.m. Thank you.